Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Alberto Morales. I have the honor and privilege of partnering with BACP and Auburn Greater Gresham in support of their capacity building initiatives through my practice that I'll get into more details about. Today's topic will be focused on mission and vision. We often ask ourselves, is our mission and vision, are they ready for a refresh? Today's webinar will talk about best practices and how to pressure test whether you have the most sharp mission and vision ready to engage stakeholders. A little bit about me before we get started. My name is Alberto Morales, as I mentioned. He, him, his are my pronouns, and I am the founder and CEO of Morales Consulting, a national firm specializing in strategic planning, racial equity facilitation, grant making, program design, evaluation, capacity building, very relevant to today, and project management. I have worked across many sectors, including the nonprofit, policy, and philanthropy sectors, and some current and past clients include Railroad Tracks Music Academy, Blackwoody, Chicago Latinos in Philanthropy, Valley of the Sun United Way in Arizona, Philanthropy for a Racially Equitable Greater Chicago, Lawyers Trust Fund of Illinois, Hyde Park Day School, WC Studios, the Equity Institute, USAID, UNICEF, and many, many more. And to learn a little bit more about my practice related to capacity building, you can also check out my website at moralesconsultingllc.com. So I hope that you know that I bring a lot of experience related to strategic clarity and focus for foundations and nonprofits, and I hope it can be useful for your work here today. We have 3 key learning objectives throughout the webinar. We hope to understand and give you the critical components of the mission and vision statements, and then also identify some common mistakes when people draft them. We're going to pressure test your mission and vision statements with best practices, and I'll give you 2 rubrics to utilize. And then hopefully by the end of this session, you will gain clarity on how your organization can refine and elevate your mission and vision statements. So the agenda will be as follows: welcome, introductions, which we just completed. We'll go through the mission components. I'll give you a mission exercise as an example. We'll have a mission overview discussion. Then we'll pivot into vision components and vision exercises and a discussion, and then we'll review and summarize and then share out best practices. So if you can, please drop your introductions in the chat, name, pronouns, title, organization, and how you are showing up today. And if you also can in the chat, please let us know how satisfied you currently are with your mission and vision statements. Are you in either they need a full update, or are you in the bucket of satisfied but needs an update, or are you in the update of very satisfied and recently updated? So while you drop that information and introductions in the chat, I'm going to begin with the interest of time. So what is a mission statement? So I want to begin with providing you a definition from SHRM, the Society of Human Resource Management, that encapsulates nicely this definition. A mission statement is a concise explanation of the organization's reason for existence, and it describes the overall purpose and its overall intention. The mission statement supports and grounds the vision statements and serves to communicate that focus and intended impact. And this is critical because often there's a confusion around what is the mission statement, what is the vision statement. So it's really important to begin here and immediately begin identifying the purpose for each of those definitions. So why is keeping the mission statement updated and relevant so important to organizations? The an updated mission statement is important because it inspires and engages your donors, your staff, volunteers, and also potential job seekers, which we know is really important in this tough market that we're in, where it's difficult to find and retain talent. And it is the most clear way to tell your stakeholders this is who we are and this is the intended impact that we hope to have. It also drives action and impact, and it specifies how you will achieve that impact. So it gets to the core and DNA of your organizations. And a lot of your constituency will often look for one to gain clarity into your nonprofit's focus, and if they align to your organization related to partnership and funding. And this is so important because often when you're searching for philanthropy funds and grants, either through foundation, city, or state, they will often return to your mission and vision statement to gain an initial introduction to who your organization is. So I cannot stress it enough how it's so important that you refresh and keep it updated. And it ultimately also has internal implications for the organization. It shapes culture. It establishes consistency during moments of growth and strategic clarity, strategic planning, which we know occurs often in the nonprofit sector. And it sends a powerful message to the public about what you're rowing toward. So one question that I often get asked is, how often should you update your mission statement? Your mission statement can and should change and adapt as you as an organization evolve and grow. So your board, staff, and volunteers from your organization should review this statement, I would say as a best practice, every 3 years at minimum, or in times of major transitions for the organization, such as strategic planning, budgetary constraints or changes, evolutions, momentum growth that you're experiencing. That is a key indication when you're growing, when you're ready to expand or focus even more. That is the perfect avenue to refresh and revisit your mission statement. And usually organizations engage in strategic planning every 3 years to every 5 years. But as a standard practice, I would encourage you to also review, even if you're not in strategic planning, every 3 years. And while the core of your organization's focus shouldn't change every 3 years, it's important that as you strategically focus in new areas or expand new areas, that your mission statement encapsulates and articulates that growth. And I'm not saying that you should change the core component. So you shouldn't go from solving poverty 1 to 3 years to then solving violence or going into education those next 3 years. That is actually not what I'm recommending. So you shouldn't change the core of focus of your organization, but the clarity around that intended impact, the clarity around that growth is so important to continue articulating to your stakeholders, your donors, your constituents at large, and it will for sure impact your culture and people hoping to stay at your organization, because they also look to your mission statement to see if there's value alignment between your staff. And often that mission statement is what inspires staff to remain engaged during moments of high work capacities, during moments of growth, knowing that at the end of the day, their mission is aligned to your mission. So if you have a very inspiring mission, it will also help retain and attract talent. So now getting into the weeds of that context of why it's important and what it is, I want to highlight some key components that are essential to include in your mission statements. So at the highest level, as I mentioned, your mission statement should inspire and include the following. Number one, what do you do? And this is often articulated to objectives and values. And I can't understate and highlight enough that this is so important, because we often see mission statements that don't let organizations or stakeholders know what the organization actually does. So are you focused on workforce? Are you focused on education? What is the actual tangible thing that you do? And those objectives and values are so important to be clear about. So not only what do you do, but how do you do it is also very important. It's often a missing link between both that creates a lot of ambiguity if you don't have it for someone who's reading your mission statement for the first time. So this will spell out how you intend to achieve your goals and really spell out a potential vision and mapping for how what your core focus will be achieved. And then importantly, if you do serve a specific region, demographic, population, gender, etc., all of that demographic data is so important to lead with, because you don't want to hide that important data. You want to immediately center it to inspire and mobilize folks around why they should get involved. And ultimately, it helps you focus external stakeholders who are looking to serve your specific demographic. And as a general rule, your mission statement should be very concise, no longer than a paragraph, because this will help convey your message and differentiate among similar organizations when you're able to hit those 3 bullet points: the what, the how, and the demographics that you're aiming to serve. And then anything past the paragraph, you will lose people. And people, you have to remember, people have very short attention spans. They're consuming a lot of information and materials every day. So the more concise, the better. So we talked about 3 important elements to include. Now we're going to talk about 3 important elements to avoid. So it's very tempting to include formal and industry language that only you as an industry leader are apprised to. Please don't do that. It lacks so much personality. It will make you sound inaccessible and unrelatable. And using jargon and acronyms that only in your field people will understand will confuse so many potential donors, volunteers, job applicants. You don't want to lead with industry jargon. You also don't want to be so broad. There's an element of ambition, but it shouldn't come at the cost of being so broad that it's difficult to see where you're focusing. It should tell folks how you specifically intend to activate your impact. So please avoid generalizing. And then there's often a balance of being ambitious, but too aspirational, right? You want to be still in the ambitious, but not too aspirational where people doubt your mission. So as an example, we aim to solve world hunger by 2030. Maybe that would have been a lot more inspiring if you didn't put the time-bound limitations. We aim to solve world hunger. Okay, that's something that you can mobilize people, but generally just try to be ambitious, but not so aspirational that it actually reduces your intended impact. So in researching a few local and national nonprofits that encapsulate these three elements that are important to include, that are concise, and that avoid industry jargon, and that are too aspirational, I found some to hopefully drive this example home. So the first is the Robert R. McCormick Foundation. It is one of the largest foundations based here in Chicago. Their mission reads as follows: we invest in people and organizations across Chicagoland and in Illinois to develop educated, informed, and engaged communities. Boom. What do? They invest in people and organizations where? Chicago and Illinois, and how they want to educate, inform, and engage communities. Those three essential components they were able to do that in one sentence. Then we go to Chicago Scholars to the right. We uniquely select, train, and mentor academically ambitious students from under-resourced communities to complete college and become the next generation of leaders who will transform their neighborhood and our city. Similarly, the what, the how, and the demographics are included, and they don't include any jargon. And again, it's very, very concise. Mikvah Challenge. Our mission at Mikvah Challenge is to develop youth to be empowered, informed, and active citizens who will promote a just and equitable society. So clearly, they're focused on youth. They want to empower, inform, and activate citizens. And it's very, very concise. And then LinkedIn, just very, very concise. They want to connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. Boom. The what, the how, and the demographics. Professionals, more productive and successful. Connect is the how. So I hope these 4 examples bring to life the best practices to include and the best practices to avoid, and then also reinforce that you don't have to be very verbose and long-winded and detailing your mission statement. You can actually articulate what you're hoping to achieve, engage and inspire your stakeholders by being concise. And concise is always to your benefit when there's so much information overload in our world. So let's recap.
I want to show you why most mission statements are so terrible. So let's say that you own a chain of pizza parlors, and maybe you have a mission statement that you've drafted, and it says something like, our mission is to serve the tastiest damn pizza in Wake County. Now that's pretty good if you ask me. If I was one of your employees, I could get excited about that. But here's where things go off the rails. So you invite all your colleagues to come join you and to help you wordsmith this thing, and you all sit around a table, and right in front of your eyes, a transformation happens. All of these people who you like and respect suddenly become 10th grade English teachers and begin to nitpick every word of this thing.
Hey, I really like the word present better than serve. It has a nice resonance.
We obviously can't say damn. And why limit ourselves to Wake County?
And guys, I know our pizza is good, but what about the calzones and the salads? Why don't we just say highest quality Italian food?
Our Greek salad isn't Italian.
We haven't even talked about the atmosphere yet, the big comfy booths and the kids' birthday parties and all that.
Yeah, great point. You know what we're really doing here? We're providing a family entertainment solution.
Yeah, solution.
Nailed it.
And everyone's excited now. You're almost there. And then Steve at the end of the table pipes up.
Listen, guys, we haven't mentioned anything about integrity. That's what it's all about at the end of the day, integrity.
And is anyone at the table going to rise up and go to the mat against the word integrity being in the mission statement? Doubtful. So presto, that's in. And now here's your new and improved mission statement. Our mission is to present with integrity the highest quality entertainment solutions to families. I know this is a little bit silly, but you got to admit this is what 99% of mission statements sound like. And now you know why. There's this cycle of making words more ambiguous and more fancy until all of the meaning, leaches out. Here's how to avoid that. 2 tips. Number 1, use concrete language. Great example comes from this fast-growing small business called Sonic Bids. Check this out. We want to help musicians get gigs and promoters book the right bands. We're a bunch of people who think that music can truly change the world and make it smaller and better. Now, I love that. I think it gives you a picture of exactly what they do and also gives you a hint why they might want to do that. And that brings us to the second point, which is talk about the why. Most mission statements are really long on statement and really short on mission. And the whole point of this is to talk about why you're doing what you do. You've got to talk about what makes you care. So let me give you a famous example from Johnson & Johnson. This is the first line in their credo. Our first responsibility is to the doctors, nurses, and patients, mothers and fathers, and all others who use our products and services. Well, all right. That's something that you could get out of bed to go do. Now contrast that with the guiding principles of ExxonMobil. Did you feel that? A little part of your soul just died reading that mission statement. So now you've seen why bad mission statements happen to good people, and I've given you 2 tips for avoiding that fate. If you're interested in learning more about...
Thank you. I think it's a really funny example and a little bit dramatized, but you get the point, right? And hopefully it brings what we've shared already to life with other examples and other mission statements. So in the next part of our presentation, I will share a scoring rubric that will allow you to pressure test your mission statement. And offline with your team, you can engage in a mission statement workshop using the rubric as a guide to pressure test some of these best practices and elements and see where yours stacks up. So the following is a rubric that I use with clients that helps throughout the strategic clarity conversations when refreshing the mission and vision statement. So the core elements that we just went over are included in this rubric, and they're scored between 1 to 4, 4 being the strongest and highest score you can get, and 1 being really needs work and is a little bit weaker. So it's broken down by 5 critical components: language, focus, the what, impact, the how, demographics, examples being location, race, gender, everything that we just talked about, ambition, and inspiration. So in language, in order for you to score a 4, a stranger should be able to pick up your mission statement and completely understand the language. It should be accessible. It shouldn't include any jargon, shouldn't be vague, and be industry specific. It's a 1 if a stranger is highly confused by that language, it is full of jargon, and includes a lot of industry specific words. The focus, in order for you get to score the highest, the objectives of the organization should be very clear and coordinated to create a strong message. And then if it's a 1, meaning it needs improvement, it's because the what is very confusing, the objectives are unclear, and they're a little bit scattered. They're not kind of rowing in the same directions. It doesn't feel aligned. For impact, the how or the why, in order for you to get a 4, the mission statement should clearly articulate how your organization will achieve its goals and uses a little bit of outcome language. And of course, it receives a 1 if it doesn't articulate how your organization will achieve its goals. Demographics, in order for you to get a 4, the organization's target demographic is very specific if you have one. And of course, a 1 if it's completely vague, you don't know you don't articulate who you're serving. And then finally, ambition and inspiration. In order for you to get a 4, the mission statement should be very aspirational and realistic. Remember that it's kind of like this perfect marriage of ambitious but realistic. You could kind of see what you're shooting for, but it doesn't feel so unattainable. And given the resources and context of your organization. So that's a 4. You get a 1, you should score yourself a 1 as a team if the mission statement is uninspiring and completely unrealistic for the organization. And it would be very difficult to succeed given the current context and resources that the organization currently has. So after you score each, hopefully you will have an idea of the areas that you need to improve. And I would focus less on the score and the total score and more so on the category. What is the category and what is the consensus among the team of why you scored yourself a 3 versus a 4? Or why did you score yourself as a 1? And I hope that each of those categories is illuminating enough for you to focus on the next iteration of your mission statement and where it needs to improve. So that scoring rubric will be shared after the webinar as well and is available here. So now that we've covered mission statements, we're going to cover vision statements, which are complementary and often confused with the mission statement. So what is the difference between the mission and vision statements? The key differences between both are that a mission statement articulates your organization's objectives and purpose, which we just went through, and a vision statement articulates a future state in the world. If your vision statement, if your vision as an organization is met, your organization would have achieved its mission. You're kind of working yourself out of a job if your vision statement comes to life. It is also often called one of your organization's North Star, the why, the what you're shooting for. So why is having a strong vision statement important? In the same way that a vision statement is important, the vision statement serves as the highest level strategic plan for success. It motivates your employees. It helps with retention. It helps to attract high caliber employees because they're inspired by your North Star, your why, and the vision for what you hope will be your intended impact in the world. And it also helps to identify and build organizational culture with that inspiring vision. And it grounds external stakeholders, such as funders, as donors, about your goals immediately. And it gets them excited about partnering with you by having a strong vision statement. So there are 3 critical components to include in a strong vision statement. At the forefront and at the central tenet of anything, they should absolutely inspire folks. People should feel energized and excited once they read your vision statement. And the 3 components are the following. Number 1, you should be talking in a future state. What is that desired world that you're trying to create? What are you shooting for? What is your why? It should also have your personal organization identity and not feel so impersonalized and robotic and full of that industry jargon that is very corporate, very depersonalized. If your vision statement should really articulate who you are, have your special sauce tied into it, and ideally reference some of your values. And then ultimately, what is the outcome? You have to describe the aspirational outcome that only you can provide. And if it includes any time parameters, the time frame should be achievable and believable. But generally, try to avoid any time-bound parameters, because you will really have to inspire people that it's achievable and believable and ambitious enough. So with those three components in mind, it's a worthy reminder that there's a sensitive dance and balance between being ambitious, achievable, and within reach. You kind of want them to be dancing around each other, knowing that it is very ambitious, but it shouldn't be so ambitious where it feels so unattainable. It should be very, very close in that sensitive dance. There are also three important elements to avoid when creating a vision statement. Generic statements don't work. If you change the organization's name and put in another organization name and it works, that's your sign, because it doesn't have anything personalized. It's very generic and not really capturing your core DNA and your special sauce. It shouldn't be lengthy. Similar to the mission statement, concise is key and critical when drafting a vision statement. It should be brief, 1 to 2 sentences max, and it will inspire others to create that desired world, or what you're hoping to achieve in that desired world. And it shouldn't be too aspirational, as we talked about. And another example, we aim to solve world hunger by 2030. There are those time-bound limitations to try to avoid. So here, I shared the 4 examples of the organization mission statements. Now, complementary to that, I am also sharing their vision statements that are equally strong. So starting at the top, Chicago Scholars, a vibrant Chicago powered by diverse leaders from every neighborhood. Boom, 1 sentence. LinkedIn, create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. Boom, amazing. Another 1 sentence. The Robert R. McCormick Foundation envisions a Chicagoland comprised of thriving communities where all individuals have the resources and opportunities to succeed without regard to race, income, ethnicity, gender, or zip code. Still very concise. And then finally, Mikvah Challenge. Our vision at Mikvah Challenge is envisioning a stronger, inclusive democracy that values youth voice. So if you remember their mission statements, these really bring to life that future state. And it's so complementary to their vision statement. And that's what you want to achieve, a complement in a future state that inspires folks. So similarly to the mission statement, I will be sharing with you a rubric for the vision statement that you can utilize as a team to pressure test that vision statement. And the team will follow up with that rubric immediately after our call. So in summary, we'll cap off with another video to share best practices and bring this practice to life.
This is Tiffany with Boss on a Budget, and today we're going to talk about vision statements. So how do you know you're on the right track when you're creating your vision statement? I can give you a trick to let you know right away whether or not you're headed in the right direction. So if your vision statement starts with to do or to provide, then you're creating a mission statement and not a vision statement. Your mission is action driven. It talks about what you're going to do or what you do. Your vision is the outcome of all the activities you talk about as a part of your mission statement. So your vision is at the end, when everything is said and done, what will the world be like? How will your target population be different? How would they be better? What is the outcome of all the great work that you're doing? After all the great work is done and you've done everything you could do to make the world a better place, what does it look like? What is the world? It's your dream about what the world would be as a result of the great work of your organization. So here's a really easy trick you can use to start your wheels thinking about how to craft a good vision statement. So you start with a statement that says, a world without, and then you insert the problem you're trying to resolve. So if your problem is hunger, your vision statement could be a world without hunger. Because your vision statement is not meant to be very long. It's even shorter than your mission statement. It should be very punchy, very quick, very impactful. So that's a really easy way to do that. A world without problem. A way to flip it to make it a little bit more positive, you could put a world with outcome. Okay, so a world with however you want the world to be or however you want it to be different, you can talk about it that way. So there's two ways to kind of formulate your vision statement. I want to give you an example of a great one that could help kind of get your wheels thinking about how to craft a good one for your organization. So the Black Woman's Blueprint has an awesome vision statement, and it is a world where women and girls of African descent are fully empowered and where gender, race, and other disparities are erased. So again, they thought about what the world would be if they did all of the work that they needed to do and nothing else needed to be done. That's what the world would look like. So you can get creative and think about it. Close your eyes, imagine utopia, right? Imagine the world the way you want it to be, where your nonprofit is not even needed. That's the point, right? Think about that, and that will help get your juices flowing to create a good vision statement. And your vision statement is important because that's where you start to think about the outcomes for your participants and your goals for your organization. Your vision is your big goal. It's your big, lofty, dreamy goal. And then from under that are the goals of your organizations and the outcomes that you want your participants to receive. So it's really, really good as a goal post for your organization to know where you're going, where you're headed. If you have any questions or need other resources,
Well, I hope this summary video also reinforces the critical components of the vision statement. And to summarize,
this
next steps, please revise and take a look at both those mission and vision statements. Use peer feedback and today's rubrics to pressure test it. Bring your staff and board together and collectively use that rubric and update those statements, specifically if you're in moments of growth and strategic planning, it is the opportune time to refresh both of those. And please reach out if you have any questions. I'm here to support you and share additional tips and tricks. I want to thank you on behalf of both amazing organizations who provided the opportunity to spend time with you today. On the screen is my email and website if you want to engage further. Thank you again so much for the opportunity, and thank you to BACP, the Business Affairs and Consumer Protection, for providing capacity building initiatives to the nonprofit sector. Thank you so much.